everyone, I'm Courtney, and I'm joined by my dear friend, Grant Skeldon and Greg Stevens. Welcome to the Believer's Voice of Victory broadcast. Yesterday, we talked about multigenerational church and the importance of looking behind us and looking ahead of us. Today, I'm really excited because we're going to go into a more practical way to do that, which really is through discipleship. This is kind of the first thing I ever heard you teach on, and it really did blow me away because I felt like I wasn't hearing it at church, which is ironic because the Bible tells us to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to just, complain about my experience. I want to make sure that I don't do the same thing. And so, and I'm not blaming it on my church specifically. I think it's just an unlearned territory sometimes. So just jump right into discipleship, the importance of it, what it really is, how do we do it?
Yeah, I think the importance of it for me comes from it being Jesus's last words. I've never been at the deathbed of someone, but I've got to assume when you know your time is coming, it seems that if you ever watch a movie or maybe you've been in this situation, those people choose their words carefully. They reconcile often. They repent. They ask for forgiveness. They give life to their children or give direction of like, hey, this is what I always saw in you. We really consider what are those words we want to say. And when Jesus knew he was about to ascend and leave his disciples, his final words, his last words were, go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And also one last verse he said that often gets left off the Great Commission in Matthew 28 is he said, and behold, I am with you always. For me personally, I love that because he's not called us just to this great mission and say, hey, figure it out. I've trained you well and go. He's like, and again, I'm all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. He starts there and then he ends with, and I'm with you always. But I do believe that this is our Lord and Savior's last words. It should probably be our first priority because he chose those words carefully. And to me, I just think you talk about, well, hey, why did I maybe not hear about this too much? I was the same way. I think that a lot of my hope is to how can we normalize discipleship and reintroduce it. And I used to think, oh, well, why did my parents' generation not do it? Or why did my grandparents' generation not do it? Why was this not something I heard about often, got trained in? Or why haven't I been approached by many older men and saying, hey, can I disciple you or will you follow me? Because we see Jesus did that. He sought after the disciples. Often I'm trying to teach young people, hey, go pursue someone to pour into you. And often as young people, if you see a sharp young leader, that's what they're doing is they're like trying to get around the wiser person. But the way Jesus did it is he pursued. And so
may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because in my generation, we had a discipleship movement and it got weird. Mm-hmm. I mean, because you had to ask your disciple or person, do I marry this person? Do I do this? Do I do that? And they had to say everything approval in your life. And so my generation kind of transferred it to mentorship. Mm-hmm. So is there a difference between mentorship and discipleship?
Yeah, I would say there's a distinct difference. And I think that both are very, very helpful. But I would say mentorship is a little bit limited and discipleship is a lot more robust. I think mentorship, yeah, they both have pros and cons, but I would say that mentorship is adding something to your calendar while discipleship is including someone in your calendar. And that nuance sounds small, but I think that makes the function of it very different. So mentorship, I could say, hey, Greg, we're starting to connect at church. I was like, is there any chance we could go to Cracker Barrel once a week, Starbucks, a coffee shop or somewhere where I could just get breakfast with you and I'd love to learn from you or I'd love to share some of my story and I'm just looking for direction or maybe we do a Bible study. But it would be a set time, a set place. And if you're busy, which many, many people are, like I actually don't think that discipleship isn't normal as I'd like it to be because people don't care about it or don't think it's important. I think one of the biggest reasons, it's not even a spiritual thing, it's just like we're busy. We if you got a spouse, if you got a family, if you got a job, you're not thinking at the end of the week, what am I going to do with all my free time? You're thinking, man, my whole schedule is stacked. Like we're trying to take things off our calendar. So I have some parents or people in the church who will come to me after hearing about discipleship. It's like, man, I want to do it. I'm passionate about it. I wish I could do it. I just don't have a lot of time. And so that's where I try to say, you may then not have time for mentorship because that's adding one more thing to your calendar, but you may for sure have room for discipleship because that's including someone in your calendar. You might have to get creative. I like to focus on 4 areas, like Maybe invite them into your personal life. Like, what are you doing for fun? Or what are hobbies you do? Or what are things you just need to do in your own personal life? And say, hey, this isn't anything super special, but if you want to do this, come and do that with me. And it's on you to move your life around mine. Maybe it's your family life. Maybe it's your work life. Maybe it's your church life. Come volunteer with me. Come join my small group. But I think the wise way, if you don't have time, is say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and come and join me. If you're willing to do that, you can.
Well, that's sort of what
there.
Jesus did, isn't it? He said, come, I'll make you disciples of men, and come follow me. So I interrupted, but I want to get into that discipleship because we're commanded to do it.
Yeah. They say discipleship is caught more than it's taught. And so I think that life on life type of discipleship it's just something powerful about it. I never want to put mentorship and discipleship against each other. I think, I'm sure there's a time, again, you get to be around such amazing leaders. I'm sure you've sat down for a breakfast or a lunch or coffee and said, just ask a couple questions. And I can think of times when I did meet, even just one time, with a type of mentor, if you will, and just asked, like, I'm 5 years married right now. Clearly, I'm not in the season of writing the marriage book. And so I might meet with someone older and say, hey, they've been married for 20, 30 years. They give me some insight on marriage. I'm like, I lock onto that for 5, 10 years. It's like, I still remember it, but they're not in my life all the time, and I'm not in their life all the time. But I think mentorship is very powerful. Discipleship is just robust. It's also harder because it's relational. It's frequent. I'd love to know for you, like, was there any, you get such a lucky situation where for your father, you got to go with him. If discipleship is caught more than it's taught, or for Brother Copeland, like any time where they never said anything. They never said, hey, Courtney, you should do this as well. But you think, hey, I kind of do this just because I've seen the fruit of the faithfulness of doing it this way. And I remember real quick before you share, when I was 16, the first guy who discipled me, he pursued me. I was 2 weeks into being a Christian. He let me go with him all day one Wednesday night. He was the youth pastor. We were spent. And then we went to dinner with his family after the youth night. And before we knocked on the door and went inside, he kind of paused. He prayed. He settled his heart. And then he went in. And I kind of asked him, like, hey, why do you kind of pray right before going in? And he said this. He's like, I really pray always to give my first fruit to my family. So often in ministry, you give your leftovers. And he's like, I prepare my heart and my soul to give my best to my family. They are my first ministry. He never said, and Grant, you should do that too. But I was like,
you just watched it.
I want to do that when I didn't even have a girlfriend, but I said, hey, when I'm married and when I have kids, I want to be like that one day. Any moments where they didn't have to tell you to do it, but you're like, I'm sold.
I saw the way that my grandfather, number one, like actually very similar to what you're saying. Every time he would get on the plane, he would pray, not just for protection, but for his partners and for the crew. And he always put everyone before himself. Like his intention of prayer was never just about protect me, God, or like give me peace. It was about everyone else. Yeah. And that really stuck with me on the way that he's other people first and then he thinks about himself, and just the way he treated people in general, like the way that he was always kind to people. And I really try to do that, especially in situations where it's crazy. I'm working through this, but now I'm on the flip side of all that. And I feel sometimes I have to work through embarrassment of like the plain stuff. And like, because I realize how foreign it is, but I think about those moments and I think about what led to where we are now and the consistency that my grandfather had, whether he was flying a plane that held 2 people in it or one that held 12. You know, it was like, thank you, Lord, for this avenue. And that really stuck with me of like, it doesn't matter how small or how big what we're doing is, but the consistency of his prayers stayed the same through my 30 years of life. Like it never changed. And it's really built a level foundation in me of, doesn't matter where you're going, what you're doing, God is the foundation of it. And yeah, I mean, I'm really thankful for those times for sure. And I wanted to add too, the difference between mentorship and discipleship. I can't think of one mentorship conversation that I've had where I've sat someone down that I can remember word for word what answer they gave me. But I do remember and know the experiences where I've been let in. Even you, the first, probably second or third time I met you, you're like, hey, can I just follow you around out at the ministry for a day? And I remember thinking, this is wild that he wants to do that. But then I was like, okay, I should probably do the same thing. And I followed you around through a couple of events that you were doing. And like just one day. And I remember learning so much from you and the conversations you were having with other people that it really did open a door for me of like actually asking like, Dad, can I come with you to this meeting and just sit in the corner or whatever it is, and learning the way that he handled situations or conversations. It really, really changed my life.
Yeah. One tip I'd say too is I try to say, if you're going to join someone's life, maybe know which role you play. Because you just said I sat in the corner, and I think that's really helpful. Because some people might be like, I don't know if I can invite someone into my work life. Like we could do that in our situation, but someone might be like, I don't know if I even trust a young person coming into my work setting and just knowing what to do. And I usually say, make sure they know, are they a view, or are they a voice, or are they a vote? And so a view is just, hey, you're a fly on the wall, just watch. And then afterwards we'll talk and we'll have conversation. You can ask questions, but you're really not here to speak. You're kind of in the corner, but you're going to be in the room. You're going to hear things. You're going to get an insight. You're going to learn things. You're going to see what it's actually like. I personally think moments like that, if you're following someone in the industry you want to work in, I sometimes think it's more powerful than college these days, because a lot of colleges aren't setting up kids after a bachelor's degree like it used to 20, 30 years ago. But to be in the field and see it, like, it's just something different. And then you're a voice, that might be after a while, you've been in those circles for a while, and they're like, hey, actually, we want the younger perspective. In a lot of ways, you're a voice.
That
you're
happened
like,
a lot to me.
You're sharing like, hey, Courtney, what's the next generation think about this thing we're all talking about? I bet, tons of times that happened. And then sometimes it's you're a vote. And again, I keep picking on you, but like you're now at the table, you're sharing, and it's to better help reach more people with the gospel and with the unique vantage point of the younger generation. I want to say this verse real quick, and I'd love to hear even if you had a moment where they never said do this as well, but it was that discipleship that was caught and not taught. But another quick verse before you share is, 1 Thessalonians says, this is Paul in 1 Thessalonians 2:8 says, because we loved you so much, we are delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our life as well. And so like I think such a big deal that he would say, we're delighted to do this. It was exciting. It wasn't a burden. It was a delight to not only share the gospel of God, but our lives as well. This is a guy, Paul, maybe few people in the Bible went to such great lengths to share the gospel. Like he literally listed out once. He says, I was beaten, I was shipwrecked, I was stoned, I was snake bitten. It was like the whole list. He's gone to way farther lengths than I have to share the gospel. And he goes so far to say, but I was delighted to share not only the gospel of God, but our lives. There's something about, again, that being caught and not taught we have a generation that they've heard so much content and they've heard, hey, Jesus has died for you. But I think it's knowing the why. I think it's seeing it. Like they want to see the gospel in action and in faithfulness. And so for you, when you were younger, was there a moment, even to this day, you still remember?
I was raised in ministry as well. And so always the guest ministers in the home, and you would listen to them and all that. But I walked away from all of this because of hurt, and too long of a story. And I walked away, I didn't walk away from Jesus. I walked away from religions, what I found out I did. And then when I came back and Brother Hagin took me under his wing, Kenneth E. Hagin, and I got to fly with him and travel with him and listen to him. And I learned to be quiet, the voice or the view, to just sit in the plane right across from me, just like this, and listen. And then he would come to my office and he would say things, but he had an ability, and this is what I'm trying to develop in my life at my stage that I'm in right now. He had the ability to see something in a person and begin to develop it.
Yeah, that's great.
And he said, you're going to do a tent meeting for me this summer. And I remember he came and sat on the front row. And I'm speaking, and it's his team and everything. And when I messed up, and I did, he expected me to mess up because that became a teaching moment. He goes, well, now let me tell you where you missed it here. And then we would talk about those things. And so now I find myself in this role, but I remember distinctly, I can't remember a lot of the sermons, but I remember distinctly those mentoring moments when like the disciples came to Jesus and they said, we couldn't cast out. He goes, okay, it's a teaching moment. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
And those are the precious moments that my generation needs to do to next gen.
Yeah. I love how you're talking about, I was with him and then I'd ask him questions, or even
he would ask me a question. And if you ask Brother Hagin a question, he would tell you, I need 2 verses. What does the Bible say about it? He wouldn't answer you. And then he would answer you after you said, now here's what I found in this. Well, let me show you this.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was a teaching. It was a private teaching. It was I guess we would call it an apprenticeship, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I like to even think of it as like, do you have a shadow? A shadow is with you all the time. You don't have to have someone all the time. And I also don't think we can do this for everyone, but I do think everyone can do this for someone.
Yes.
And what I like is, these conversations, I think we need to bring back the power of these conversations and remind ourselves we are in the Word regularly, and we usually distribute this Word through preaching. And I'm a speaker. I travel all over. We just got the privilege to do some great work here in preaching, but it's not the only way we distribute the gospel. Paul's showing it. There's through the pulpit, if you will, and there's through our lives. And when we do one and not the other, we're kind of fighting with one hand tied behind our back. But if you notice this, most of the content we ever know from Jesus' words, like the red letters, if you will, they're not mostly from sermons. They're actually from conversation.
That's right.
They're follow-up questions. They're like, hey, it's the disciples saying, hey, you were talking about this, and what did that mean? Or we don't understand that, or why is it this way for this blind guy? Or it's so many different things that happen through conversation.
Most of the miracles he did were an interruption to his schedule.
Yeah, he was the best at being interrupted. Man, that's been a new lesson for me of just, are we interruptible? Because I'd say like 80% of the conversations he had was because he had the capacity to overflow the Spirit while he was interrupted. But I think I want to bring this up too, of the conversations, because there's one of the biggest reasons, if it isn't I don't have time, is that's why we don't disciple. One of the biggest ones is I just think a lot of Christians have assumed the discipleship in the Great Commission, that's for the elite leaders, that's for the speakers, that's for the authors, that's for the pastors, that's for maybe the CEOs, but that's not for us. We how could we disciple? What's glorious enough in our life to do it? But we all have wisdom. We've all been there. We've all I like to define relational discipleship as frequently following someone who is spiritually just a couple steps ahead. And that helps us see you may not be like qualified, which I don't know if that word's ever even really in the Bible. Like, are you qualified? I think the enemy likes to tempt us with that question. And
the Pharisees asked it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was the posture of like, what qualifies this person? But I don't know if that's the right question. I think instead of asking, are we qualified to make disciples? We should ask, are you spiritually a couple steps ahead? Because you may look at the next generation and be like, I don't know if they'd want to learn from me or if I'm qualified. But I would ask, do you look at the next generation today? And sometimes the immaturities we see, or the things we know, sometimes you'll feel like, why in the world is it like this today? That's a sign that you're spiritually a couple steps ahead. And so you have a lot to offer. And so instead of asking, am I qualified? Ask, am I spiritually a couple steps ahead? Or better is just say what Paul said. Like, Paul didn't say you need to be just like me. Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. Yep. And so the pressure isn't on you to be perfect. The pressure's on Jesus, and he can handle that pressure. He is the perfect one. And so I like to think of it as like, even if I stumble 7 times, I'm going to get back up because I am going to continue to follow Jesus. So if you want to follow me as I follow Christ, there's only one place we're going, and that's towards Jesus.
You mentioned earlier the life sector that someone could watch you and disciple. What are the 3 other ones?
So your personal life, hobbies, things you do for, maybe I've seen a lot of, recently my mom was saying, I invite them when I go grocery shopping. And it doesn't always have to be the fun things we do in our personal life, but the things we need to do. It could also be your work life, your church life, or your family life. And so for me, I think actually family is the second one that's pretty easy to do and more powerful than we think. Is again, you might feel like, I don't know if I've got anything special to invite them to. Dinner with your family actually is way more powerful than you think. Even to this day, I'm married 5 years. We don't have kids. And when I get to be around a family and I see the intentionality, the hospitality, conversations at a table, I personally didn't grow up with a family that did dinner like that. There's so many moments where I'm like, man, I'm taking mental notes, if you will, of what I want to do. But I think those are 3 other areas that are very helpful. What's the best way to either find someone to disciple you or find someone that you can be a disciple for? Yeah, I think the focus for me is find others in your same maybe industry. That's helpful because if I was older and I was trying to pour into someone younger, I was like, maybe at work or in the same industry, not only am I teaching them spiritually, I'm showing with them, how do you be a faithful witness that does things with excellence in this industry? Like, how do we be redemptive in this industry? But they also are not just trying to learn how to be a godly person. They're trying to learn how to be like maybe a godly excellent architect or lawyer or doctor. And so you got a lot you could show them. Again, maybe better than what college could show you because it's hands-on.
I agree with that. When I wanted to come work at the ministry, my dad was like, if you want to work here, you can go work in the mailroom. And then I was like, Dad, I think I've worked in the mailroom long enough. Can you please let me do reaction tour? Like, that's what I really want to do. It's the mission of my heart. And he was like, nope, you have to work everywhere. And he made me shadow every single department in the whole ministry for 6 months.
Yeah.
So I went and sat in accounting. I went and sat in all the areas of communications. I went and watched them edit the broadcast. Like, I went to every single area of the ministry. And I would say I learned more in that 6 months, especially to end up being here, than I could have possibly learned at school, which I did go to school for a while. And I remember thinking, like, they don't teach us any of this stuff, you know? They don't teach you how to do your taxes. They don't teach you how to do any of this stuff.
Can't lead until you served.
Exactly. I agree with that. I agree with that. So what does it kind of feel like or look like when you first make that ask to be discipled?
Yeah, it is. I think we need to acknowledge that asking someone to disciple you and asking if you can disciple someone can be scary. It's not easy. It's intimidating. It's a big ask. I think we just got to say that and get the awkwardness out because it's not as easy as saying, do you want to go to a movie? That's, if you reject it, say no, it's just because you don't want to go to the movie. Or do you want to go to this restaurant, try this new restaurant? That's different. But if it's like, do you want to enter into a relationship where you pour into me and I receive it, or hey, I'd like to pour into you. And I mean, I would joke, but last year was the first time I ever offered to disciple a young guy, and he actually was like, I don't know, I'm kind of busy. And I'm like, man, I got rejected from offering to disciple someone. I felt hurt, and I was like, man, it's So all that
it's
to
not
say,
you, it's me.
It's something different. Yeah, it felt like almost like a beginning of a dating relationship. It was like, no, it's not you, it's me, and you can start taking it personally, and it's different. And so I think we need to acknowledge that there's a intimidation I've found on both sides in both generations. And so what I tell, let's just speak to the younger person. If you're younger and you're looking for someone to disciple you, or especially if you know someone you like to disciple you, my insight would say, find out what they like to do for fun. And jokingly, but kind of seriously, and act like you like to do that thing too. And maybe not act, but like get into it sincerely and authentically. Get into what they like to do for fun and join them in it. A quick story I will close with is a guy who I wanted to get discipled by was a great architect for Walmart. He did a lot of anti-human trafficking work. He helped produce some of the movies you may have heard of, like Jesus Revolution, I Can Only Imagine. He really helped fund and invest in the young directors. And I say that to say, this is a busy guy. Going back to the very beginning, it's like, man, I just don't have time. And when I tried to meet with this man, I said, hey, is there any chance I could get some time with you? And his assistant said, it'd take like months because he was so booked. After 6 months, I finally got some time with him. And when I asked him if he'd pour into me, I made the ask. He was like, man, you're a good kid. God's got his hand on you. It's like in the dating, I could already tell him, where's the butt coming? He's like, but man, I'm so busy. I gotta give way more time to my family. I'm saying no to more things. And so it's not you, it's me. So I was like, okay, I've got to trick this guy into discipling me for the glory of God. And so I texted him that night and I said, man, so thankful for the time, but is there any chance that we could start doing this one thing I saw you're into? Because I found out he was into running. He liked to run early in the morning. He posted about it a lot. Runners always post about their runs. And so I knew that was what he was into. And I texted him that night, hey, thanks for the time. Is there any chance we could ever run together? I forgot to mention it, but I'm starting to get into running. And I'm joking around, but I did start looking it up, and all of a sudden he wanted to talk all about running. What kind of shoes am I using? What kind of places am I running? And all of a sudden it went from this guy's too busy to can we run tomorrow? And long story short, this man entered into a relationship with me as I started running with him, doing half marathons. And my point in saying all this is there are people out there that have this openness, but we got to move our life around them. Jesus didn't move his life around the disciples moved their life around Jesus. So if you're hungry, if you're humble, if you're teachable, and if you make yourself available, it's amazing what God could do.
That is so good. I know we covered a lot. So if you want to download the notes for this episode, you can go to kcm.org/notes, where you can get all of Grant's notes and everything we discussed. One thing I want to bring up to you before we go is to make sure you register and come to the Southwest Believers Convention this year. The theme for the convention this year is the homecoming. My grandfather has talked about how he's coming off the road, he's moving his ministry home, and he keeps reminding me, I'm not saying I'll never travel, but I want to be available to what the Lord's calling me to do, whether it's go be with the staff, go be with the partners, hop on a plane and go meet with the ambassador like he did last week. He couldn't have done that if he was as busy as he was. He's also resting. So we're calling it the homecoming because he's bringing his ministry home. And so I want you to go register at kcm.org/SWVC. Make sure you're there. Bring the whole family. I feel like this would actually be a great place to find a mentor. Maybe like if you are not really finding one in your church, which I said mentor, but I meant discipleship. I could feel your correction inside. But if you're looking for a disciple, come to the Southwest Believers Convention. I'm sure you could find one there. Obviously, it's probably better to try to find one in your own church, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're trying and you can't find one, Southwest is the next best place to be. I'm Courtney. This is Grant Skeldon and Greg Stevens, and we're reminding you that God loves you, we love you, and Jesus is Lord. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I'm so excited to introduce you to the Redesign Lifeline series by my grandparents, Kenneth and Gloria Copeland. When problems arise, having a go-to action plan to overcome those challenges is so vital. That's where the 6-part book series comes in. This is a comprehensive, word-based resource designed to help believers apply God's promises to real-life challenges. These books address the most common areas where believers desire breakthrough and lasting transformation. This package includes books on topics such as faith, healing, prayer, anxiety, finances, and relationships. You can buy one or the whole package. Rather than offering inspiration alone, this package equips believers with practical steps that encourage consistent faith action and spiritual growth. If you'd like to get your copies, you can visit our website or call the number on your screen today.
Get the Spiritual Action Plan package today for 1,029 Rand. Call or go online for new postage rate options. Go to kcm.org.za or phone on 0860-103356. You can also purchase each Spiritual Action Plan individually for 179 Rand. Whether you're believing for healing, restored relationships, financial breakthrough, freedom from anxiety, want to build your faith, or receive answers to prayer, be empowered to walk in God's will with confidence. Contact your regional office for more information. You have a free resource to help you study and apply the Bible-based truths you just heard. Download the BVOV broadcast study notes today at kcm.org/notes. Collect the notes from each week and use them in a group Bible study. Use the message outline to teach from. Discuss the scriptures and key points with your family of believers. Gain understanding from all the teachings on the Believer's Voice of Victory broadcast. Get the whole week of notes today at kcm.org/notes.
Kenneth and Gloria Copeland want to thank you for joining us on the Believer's Voice of Victory broadcast. To learn more about Kenneth Copeland Ministries and how we can help you grow in faith, check out our website for free content and resources, available to you on kcm.org.za.